what it is like to play Elden Ring Nightreign. Let's see what is that summary that Vati actually cooked.
Cock.
What are you cooking?
It's funny. In my first playthrough of Elden Ring, I distinctly remember reading this message left by another player. Fortnite. Turns out it was a prophecy, because Elden Ring Nightreign is kind of like Fortnite. Okay, I'm just kidding. Kind of. I mean, you drop in from the sky at the start of the game, and you have to outrun a circle closing in around you, but that's where the similarities end. Thankfully.
What do you mean, thankfully?
A ton of articles that you might have missed have actually come out about the game, and in this video I'm going to try and get everyone up to speed.
Seekers of redemption, you were chosen, thrown together by forces beyond their control.
So, From Software has actually never done anything like this before. They've spun off the Elden Ring IP in a way that they think justifies a standalone Elden Ring title that you'll be able to purchase and play sometime in 2025, and it will exist in complete isolation from your other copy of the game. In a phrase, Nightreign is a PvE, co-op, survival roguelike souls-like, with some battle royale and extraction elements as well. And, you know, that sentence tells you everything and nothing at the same time, so...
Actually, that's a good point. I'm not sure if we can actually call it a Souls-like anymore, though, yeah? Because what makes a Souls-like? It's more like just they are using assets from Souls games, but is it really a Souls-like? I wouldn't say so.
So how would you define Souls-like?
I would say that Souls-like is a game that doesn't have possibility to actively save your progress. Mm-hmm. A game that punishes you for your losses, a game that is bosses focused, and essentially a game solely focused on the combat as a main thing. Something that is similar to the Dark Souls games pretty much, yeah? Like as close as it is only possible. That's what I probably would consider as a Souls game.
Okay,
a Souls-like.
So the only thing that is comparable to Souls games are bosses, and that's it.
Yeah, I guess.
So you might be right. This is not a Souls-like.
I wouldn't call it a Souls-like. All right, let's continue.
Let's break it down. With special thanks to the journalists who have played a demo of the game and written about it, I'm going to try and walk you through a typical Nightreign session from beginning to end.
Yeah, Vati actually
with the selection of your character.
Collected.
In Nightreign, you don't create your own character from scratch. Rather, you'll be picking from a selection of 8 preset Nightfarers, each with their own strengths, weaknesses, abilities, and ultimates. And these characters form the foundation upon which you'll build, collecting different weapons and buffs within each session to make your character unique. To start, this is Wilder, and they're the titular character of Nightreign. They'll always start with this large longsword equipped, but what's way more important than this character's weapon is their ability and their ultimate.
Yeah,
their ability is the claw shot. It's a grappling hook that can pull you towards enemies or away from them. To use an ability, apparently you hold down Y or triangle in conjunction with one of the controller triggers, and assumedly, the other trigger is used to activate your character's ultimate attack, which, in the case of Wilder, is an explosive attack that you charge up at close range for massive damage. So each character is defined by their ability and their ultimate, but another thing tied to the character that you choose appears to be the stats that each character favors.
It's probably gonna be explained at this point, but this is something that I have read about like today, I think. You apparently, depending on the character you are going to choose, you are increasing your stats automatically, or like every time you level up, and the leveling up apparently happens like automatically in the meaning that you are just going to get certain amount of runes and you are leveling up automatically. So the stats going to actually increase on its own. You are going to have certain amount of the attributes, maybe like even attributes from the Elden Ring. You're gonna have like a vitality, endurance, strength, dexterity, intelligence, arcane, and so on. But you are not going to be the one choosing the attributes. per every level up. Instead, the game gonna do it instead of you in your name, and these stats going to be increased differently depending per character you have chosen. Like every character going to have different increase of the attributes per every level up, which means apparently anything you are going to find on the map, because there is gonna be some sort of the loot happening and so on, like that's what we know. You gotta have to scavenge the map to get things that fit your character, which means like there is no build creation whatsoever. It's more like you have probably like adapt everything to the character you have chosen at the beginning of the match.
Okay, so not only there is no build making as we know, but also from what you told us, it sounds like it will be very difficult to have rune level 1 challenges.
I mean, you're not gonna have these because like that doesn't make sense from the gameplay loop perspective of this game. Like this, it's different game. In order to not level up, you gotta have to wait out the preparation phases, which doesn't make sense. So you're gonna have to be standing there for like 30 minutes and wait for the boss to arrive, like the final boss of the challenge to arrive, of the round to arrive. It doesn't make sense at all. So yeah, this game gonna be so incredibly different in the gameplay loop to what we know from the Souls games. That's why like also like think just it's not a Souls-like.
And also it looks like the combat system is completely different.
It's probably going to be very abilities oriented. It's gonna be auto gaming like never seen before. All right, let's continue.
While you can level up stats manually, PC Gamer notes that some characters will still always have more health than others, for example.
So
on that note, the Guardian is best suited as the tank for the group, because they have high HP as well as a passive that favors the usage of shields. Their ability is this whirlwind attack that interrupts enemies so that your teammates can have a moment to shine. And their ultimate ability is Wings of Salvation, which is this crazy dive bomb attack that raises nearby ally defenses and also gives you the option to endure enemy attacks for a limited time after you devastate them. And then there's the Duchess, who's another favorite character of many who played. They have a Bloodborne sidestep dodge, and they also have an ability that reapplies damage done by you and your teammates in the last few seconds, so you can basically double any damage done within that period of time. Their ultimate ability cloaks you and nearby teammates, enhancing your stealth and allowing you to make a quick getaway if needed.
It sounds like you have so much in your pockets that the game becomes easy.
I mean, like depending like on the gameplay loop, how it's gonna be looking like, how tanky like the mob's gonna be, and so on and so forth. Nonetheless, like you just cannot think of it from the perspective of regular Elden Ring.
I think that's my mistake here, because I try to reimagine Elden Ring in the frame of this game, and it's a completely different game, but then it sounds like it's only have Elden Ring title put on it so that people pay more attention to it.
I mean, like this is technically the idea of spin-offs, but like what I personally do not enjoy much is, for example, like the fact like we are not going to have certain samples of the game. Like when it comes to combat of Elden Ring, if you are going to remove the shitstones of Ashes of War and auto buttons overall, then fundamentally the game is very spacing and timing oriented. Well, we have to see if the game is not going to be very spammy, even more than Elden Ring, in the process of the introduction of the skill and the ultimate. But what actually kind of bothers me is this approach of actually heroes and so on. I personally think that character creation in Elden Ring is like a huge part of it. Not personally for me, because I just go with the default character and I don't care.
You blasphemous.
Yes, but point being, if you're going to type on YouTube something like Elden Ring, cool character creator sliders and so on, you're gonna see a lot of videos that have absurd amount of views.
Yep.
People are really into character creation in games like Elden Ring or Souls games.
Yeah.
And
Reddit Souls sliders.
It's for me kind of like I understand that it's a spin-off, but at the same time, if you are just removing the best parts of the IP something that people absolutely love. I am just not sure if it is not going a little bit too far.
So I wonder, what did they do to balance this new game so that it's not becoming spamming shitfest?
But they didn't, because like this is the entire point. Like they literally introduced skills and ultimates. It's gonna be the gameplay loop focused around literally using these abilities.
Okay, so where is the fun in this game? Where is the Souls-like fun that we all had?
I mean, like
when
let's go
struggling?
back. Let's go back and look at the very cool moves caused by abilities.
Okay,
Look, this is what's cool. Look, it's going up, it's flying.
the very cool move is very cool when you use it for the first time, but it gets very boring very quickly. And this game, I guess, is supposed to be very replayable, but it doesn't look like it.
And problem is, like, if that game, if it would be like a live service, then I would probably agree with you. But since it is not a live service game and it's actually a premium game after all, then probably not really. Probably just like the first impression is the most important. This is a premium game after all. So like what actually is going to happen afterwards, like if you are going to stop playing it or not, doesn't have that big of the impact as it would have if the game would be live service.
Yeah, okay, so Elden Ring itself is a premium game, and yet it has a tremendous amount of
Replayability.
Yes.
It's a very good game. And this one might not be that good.
Well, I hope it will be good because, you know, we are yapping here, but maybe they're actually cooked.
I absolutely fucking would love to see it. I'm cheering for it. Absolutely. My point being is there is definitely going to be focus on the fact like you have heroes, yeah? So the way how you distinguish them is not only by the stats that you're automatically gonna be gaining, the attributes per every level up, but especially like it's all about the abilities that the characters have, about their passives, about their active skill, and also the ultimate and the way how you can use this ultimate.
Okay, so did they want to somehow apply how the randomizer mod works, that they will randomize what can you grab on the map?
Yeah, that's actually confirmed. Like that's the loot gonna be randomized. Certain parts of the map also are procedurally generated. It's just like question is how it's gonna be solved, because if there is gonna be very little amount of seeds of the maps and like the loot itself not gonna have its own seeds, but they're gonna be attached to procedurally generated like parts of the map, then it's gonna be like very repetitive, very quick. And otherwise it might be actually pretty good. We're gonna see. Well, it seems like this game actually gonna be roguelike after all, honestly, in the huge part of it.
Only Achilles says, the abilities have cooldowns, so you can't spam them. That's good information.
Honestly, depends how long the cooldown's going to be.
Well, I hope they're long enough.
Alright, let's continue with the video.
Make a quick getaway if needed. The Recluse is the mage of the group, and their passive ability allows them to acquire FP whenever an enemy is slain. Their ability is called Magic Cocktail, and it passively stockpiles different statuses like poison or fire or ice whenever an enemy is hit with that type of attack. Then it releases a unique attack that's different depending on the status that was stockpiled. Their ultimate is Song of the Blood Soul, which marks all nearby enemies with an effect that restores health to any player that attacks them. Special thanks to PC Gamer for transcribing all these class abilities so neatly. There are, however, 4 other characters who are less understood at this stage, but I think I've been able to puzzle out a few based on the trailer footage and other interviews. This, for example, is an archer character who apparently has a sort of third-person aiming mode that's unique to them. We see them summoning a spectral hawk here, and they can do that because they're standing next to a spectral tree, which...
I am kind of confused. What the hell is even that map? Like, when we have seen like the overview of the map, we haven't seen anything like this, and since it's supposed to be like kind of Limgrave, reimagined, then what is this part of the map? I'm really confused about this one.
Maybe it's a cutscene when the character is taken from their origin place, kind of.
According to what Vati says here, like what it's supposed to be here is actually just like literally his ability or passive of that character.
Is it? No, it's not the way you spawn on the map, like the bird just drops you?
It was said that like you are actually dropping off the owl, but that one is apparently something different. Like this one is apparently something different. So yeah, I have no idea honestly.
So articles said that they had access to only Limgrave map, but maybe there are more maps.
Maybe
in the development.
Yeah, that's what I'm like hinting at. Maybe the initial complaint that we have seen in the articles, as people were like, oh, it's only Limgrave and that's it. Maybe it's actually not true, because like this is like very, very much the Volcano Manor's vibe, honestly, that we see right now on the screen. Okay, let's continue.
You can see on the right. This obviously allows you to navigate the terrain in a certain direction for a set amount of time, and From Software thinks this will give you some versatility in how you decide to navigate the map in certain situations. Speaking of spirits, another character is apparently meant to have a spiritual companion, and from what I can see in the trailer, I don't think this character has been shown at all. Next, there's a character that has an innate deflect mechanic that's not unlike the deflect buff that's given by the deflecting hard tier in Shadow of the Erdtree. I'm probably the most excited for this character.
Honestly, I'm not even surprised. It's looking amazing. Especially if you are Sekiro fan, this is actually looking phenomenal.
So from what we know now, which character would you pick right now?
I probably would start with the basic one, like the one with the grapple, just to kind of like get the vibe of what the game is about. Because I assume that character gonna be also the easiest. And I just would go from there, but I am actually very much interested to see how this character on the screen right now, the deflecting one, actually gonna play out.
I think I will go with the archer first.
Archer sounds amazing. Like it's the fact you can like apparently rise the pillars from the ground to get the high ground. It's looking very, very cool.
Oh, I don't care about this. I just hope that finally I can have a main archery build. Because there is no game that does it correctly. So give me a good ranger.
Okay.
Lastly, IGN notes that there's a character able to raise slabs of rock out of the earth, and I think that's the character that we see here. Let me know in the comments which characters you'll be picking. I think there's also a lot of strategy to be had in the interplay between different character abilities, and which group composition will be most optimal is definitely an interesting question as well. So, in addition to enabling you to jump into games easily with these characters, From Software also wanted to make characters like this because each of them has their own unique storyline and backstory that will become uncovered as you play.
This is actually, so this is where your lore is going to be, by the way. Like in this type of games, that's why in my opinion, personally, it would be cool if this game would be a live service type of game and not premium, like it is going to be. Because it would give us possibility to come back to this game every single time new hero would be released, and with that there would be more lore and so on, and that would be interesting. And since the game is premium, there is a chance that like I am pretty sure we're gonna end up with the DLC characters. I'm pretty sure like they are going to release more than only these 8 characters that we initially actually have announced, but I'm afraid it's gonna be like a set amount of them, and then it's gonna be it. It's gonna be like that's gonna be all. I really would wish to see From Software's attempt on the live service, and I had like huge hope initially it's gonna be it. If there is a company that would do live service correctly, that would be definitely From Software. I mean, I'm gonna say it like that. I, in most of cases, also prefer premium games. I just prefer to pay for something and have the full product. But in case of what we see here, I think it would make more sense to have live service, because then it would be beneficial for From Software especially to continue developing this game, add new characters, add new skins. Because of that, content loop gonna be infinite, because, well, sadly, this game not going to have PvP, because if it's not going to have PvP, then most likely the game gonna be solved very quickly. People gonna find the meta ways of playing the game. People gonna find like the meta characters. Once the patch service is going to come to an end, once From Software gonna move out of this game, it's going to just stay here with certain meta and essentially no further future. It's gonna be repetitive, boring. There's gonna be like no optimal new content. In my opinion, it just would be better for this game. It sounds like this game sounds like something that's supposed to have live service.
Okay, so the question to all the watchers from YouTube and Twitch is, would you prefer the Elden Ring Nightreign to be live service or premium?
That's a good question.
After selecting your character, you spawn in at the Round Table Hold, which returns from Elden Ring. Here, the characters you didn't choose will be able to be interacted with, and here you can customize each character in ways that we'll get to a little bit later. For now, let's explain what happens after you jump into a session, which you can either do alone or with 2 others by your side. Note that the password system is returning if you want to play with friends, but playing with randoms is also possible, and you'll have to be on the same platform as anyone else you want to play
No
with.
crossplay.
Band together and prepare to
Unfortunate.
play. The life of the Night Lord.
A Nightreign session takes place over 3 in-game days, provided you can stay alive that long. And apparently each 15-minute long day starts like this, with you gliding down from a spectral bird into a land called Limveld. Limveld, according to From Software, is an alternate reality to the Limgrave we explored in Elden Ring. It comes across as this distorted reality, with recognizable elements from Limgrave that will be jumbled up with every new session you create. And on top of this, FromSoft notes that some versions of Limveld will be drastically different from others, with meteoric impacts and swamps and forests of rot and active volcanoes that all diversify the landscapes and offer new threats for you to overcome. Once you've chosen a landing location, you'll be on the ground running with this new animation at about 150% speed. Torrent doesn't seem to be in this game, and instead you can climb cliffs and vault ledges with your character.
This is
and
actually
you
pretty
can
cool
use your
looking,
new
not gonna
powerful
lie.
abilities to kill enemies and power up your character even more as quickly as possible. Because each day only lasts 15 minutes, and when night falls, the map will shrink as the night's tide comes closing in. Apparently, you start each run pretty vulnerable at level 1, but before long, PC Gamer notes that many enemies quickly become akin to nothing more than trash mobs. Presumably, most enemies in this game are probably meant to just be mown down as efficiently as possible by your characters, as you prepare for the true threats that are to come. One such threat is the appearance of Margit, who can invade your world and stalk you at random.
Oh,
Little pillager, bent on sacking the lands of gold. I will swat away any and all who dare approach.
Actually, lore accurate.
because
cower in fear of the night. The night cavalry was Margit's police, pretty much.
okay,
And they were hunting the tarnished.
lore accurate actually.
Lore accurate.
Defeat invaders like Margit, and you'll receive a favor of the night, which buffs your character in some way. Indeed, defeating bosses is just one of many ways to power up your character during a run. According to PC Gamer, loot now includes passive skills like stat buffs and active effects and affinities for certain statuses. Additionally, defeating bosses allows you to sometimes choose from different loot or upgrade options, and in addition to that, loot is also now tiered with that signature color-coded rarity that you'll instantly recognize if you've played MMOs or Diablo.
Okay,
Obviously.
so like, you know, like the colors, yeah, like in Drova we actually recently had, like the orange gonna be legendary and so on.
Yeah, you know.
This is important for this kind of game because it forces you to constantly evaluate new upgrades for your build. I like the idea of a tier system for weapons in this game because it adds variety to your playthroughs. For example, If you don't like using a longsword generally, but then you find a longsword that's like a really high rarity, all of a sudden you're evaluating that weapon in a different light, and it might actually be worth using and getting out of your comfort zone in that way. So while armor upgrades appear to be absent in favor of choosing different skins for your character instead, weapon upgrades are a really big part of each run. And the equipment screen now apparently has been simplified to just 3 weapon slots for each hand, so that's 6 in total. What's worth noting though is that unlike in Elden Ring, there are no weight penalties or stat requirements for these weapons, so there's actually no downside to equipping 6 weapons.
So what? Mid-roll or light roll by default?
Oh, depends per character.
Ah,
Yeah,
so light roll mage incoming?
I guess.
Maybe they're gonna troll us and give mid-roll to mages, so all the mages of Reddit will mold.
That sounds good, honestly. I like the idea.
In fact, it's a really important thing to do because weapons actually now come with passive buffs as well, and these passive buffs will apply to your character even if they're simply equipped, and even if you don't meet the level requirement for a weapon, which is a requirement that some powerful weapons do have. Should you die in Nightreign, you'll be put into a downed state, where your teammates are actually encouraged to damage you in order to revive you. From a gameplay perspective, this is a really cool take on the revival mechanic, because it's usually a bit of a drag in other games. Unlike in other games where you have to stand still and revive someone, this allows you to make use of your character's weapons and unique arsenal and skills. What's more, you get the added bonus of being able to slap your friends silly for dying in a dumb way, which sounds kind of cathartic. If you die during the daytime, apparently you have the choice to respawn with a slight punishment to your character's level. But if it's night, you'll have no such option, and the Ring of Rain will be closing, and that will bring with it damage to those who get drenched. And at the ring's close, every day you'll be forced into a randomized boss fight with a challenging enemy that represents the end of that day. Die here in the dark, and you'll be forced to rely on your fellow Nightfarers to revive you in the midst of combat. And if all 3 of you lose your lives at any time, it's game over and it's back to the round table hold with you all.
I just realized something, and thanks to the chat. So, Messamel says ping mechanic when and puts the kappa as a joke, but I just realized that these type of games, they are using usually a ping system in order to communicate, allow like the players to communicate with each other. How the hell, like, since it is first and foremost a co-op game apparently, how they are going to allow you to communicate with other players? What's the idea? Like, how are you gonna tell a bunch of randoms where to go? Because I assume there is not going to be any ping system, otherwise it would be definitely mentioned.
Well, Steelovsky exposed never to co-op in Elden Ring. You have emotes.
Jesus, like, emotes are not going to give you a like decent information where to go. You technically you have also a voice chat on, like, for example, on the consoles.
I know, but
like,
I loved it about Elden Ring co-op. That you can't. You just have to somehow through emotes communicate.
Yeah, okay, but like in Elden Ring, it might actually be okay. You have no time limit after all. Here, you have to be precise. You have like a 15 minutes per every freaking day to obtain as much of levels and prepare for the night. Then, like, after 3 cycles, you have to be prepared for the final boss of the round. So, like, you don't have infinite time in order to, like, just like get your like character to the point that you would be satisfied with. You have to optimize, and if you have no way to quickly ping someone, hey, let's go to this place, and jump, like for an example, like I don't know, fight like people in this camp, get the loot here, and so on. Or even when you are starting the round, you are flying on these owls and you have to jump somewhere. You want to jump somewhere like together for one, yeah? Maybe I'm just thinking too much in like as if that would be a game that requires like that much of cooperation. I don't know, but like I somehow cannot imagine how this system gonna work.
Can I have a question?
Yeah.
Because, I'm new to gaming and all. So back in the day, or in other games, maybe not back in the day, you can voice chat with random people?
Yeah. I mean, like the voice chats were common even back in 2000s, like
But
at the beginning.
Aren't gamers socially awkward or something?
Oh no! They are dropping the nugget words and they are dropping the bunch of leaves words and so on at others like all the time. Like this is how it was. Like back in the days of like old Call of Duty lobbies, people were basically insulting each other all the time. Like they might be socially awkward, but it usually results in more active of the voice chat than you could possibly imagine.
I could never.
They just simply
never. I can't talk to people through phone and not voluntarily into the voice chat. Jesus, when we had our first ever voice chat, remember you were showing me something in Elden Ring? I was so fucking stressed that after that voice chat, my whole jaw was so tight I couldn't speak, I couldn't eat.
Well, you are in the minority because vast majority of people, like at least in the early 2000s, would just call you a nugget.
But I'm white.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Okay, let's continue.
While most everything that you've collected is lost upon death, one thing is not, and that's a resource called Merc. Merc is a currency that persists between rounds, and it's able to be spent in the round table hold to buy character emotes, customizable skins, and most importantly, relics. Relics are a permanent attribute buff, and each character can slot in 3 relics that can tailor playstyles to your liking. IGN mentions that some relics allowed them to deal extra damage with throwing knives, and some relics boosted the damage that you do with a certain weapon type, which is cool because then you would go into each round hoping to get that weapon. PC Gamer notes that they found relics that allowed their healing flasks to also heal their allies, or relics that marked treasure for them on the map, or relics that made their critical attacks give extra runes. It seems like all of these relics are color-coded as well for different characters, but apparently you can also perform something called a relic write to switch around their color coding. I'm not too sure I understand how.
So you're gonna have some sort of build making in the game. Like there is gonna be a preparation phase through these relics. So kind of like in Dead by Daylight.
Also, you're kinda going to have character customization through the skins.
Yeah.
But one of the most fun parts of Elden Ring co-op for me was when people were doing meme characters, some celebrities, all the Masmers, Fat Malenias. I loved it. Like the character customization in co-op is one of the best part of the game.
Like if they are not going to make these skins into microtransactions, and apparently they won't, then yeah, I kind of don't understand the idea of not having the
usual character creator, yeah.
Customization.
Just have your sliders and just go by the skin, the armor with the new currency, right?
Yeah. Okay.
How that works just yet. While you're in the roundtable hold, you're also able to visit a training ground to test out your character's new kit and to prepare for your next incursion. Apparently there's even a codex here that gives background lore on characters and enemies, which is new for a Souls-like game. But once you're done here, it's back out into day 1 of another journey, where you'll have to hope that you can survive. Interestingly, when you do die out in the world, there's a chance that a red corpse will show up in someone else's world, and that's your corpse, and in that world, apparently it will be a fantastic source of loot for them. This, according to From Software, is Nightreign's unique asynchronous online element. And
that's actually cool thing. It's kind of like in Neo 2, you have like other players, let's call it ghosts, appearing in your world. You can just summon them, like fight them, and then like get their loot. So it's something similar here, it's just that you are not fighting the other players' models. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Probably could be even cooler if you had to fight these players, like the actually NPC version of them.
It's PvPer in you talking.
Yes.
Bad red man.
Yes, but that would be a nice for replayability though, nonetheless. I would say that would be pretty cool.
This is in addition to the usual phantoms that you'll be able to see running around the world with you. On that note, leaving messages for others is apparently a feature that's been removed in this game. And it was removed in the name of speed and fluidity, which are two things that are clearly very important priorities for Nightreign's gameplay. This game revolves around getting as much done as possible in your 15-minute days before each boss fight. Leveling up, for example, is another thing that's been streamlined. No longer do you need to sit and rest at a site of grace to level up and restore your flasks. Rather, you only need to be in the proximity of grace to do so. And even leveling up has been streamlined to where you can auto-level recommended stats just by mashing a button, and this process will automatically upgrade the stats that suit your character. As noted by IGN, the structure of the game really lends itself to this gradual build in tension with every day that culminates in a boss fight, and then that tension recedes again if you're victorious that night and the Ring of Rain retracts away from you. All enemies killed on day 1 remain dead, and with day 2 beginning, your team is able to get back to exploring and preparing for that next challenge, which will require you to synergize your builds together and come up with strategies to take out the field bosses you wish to face. So I think this process of looting and exploring and fighting creates really good peaks and valleys to the gameplay, as From Software says as well. And they believe that this will condense the experience of Elden Ring, fitting exploration and character building and discovery and challenge into just one short play session. At the culmination of the 3rd day, you'll face the Night Lord, or rather, you'll face one of 8 chosen Night Lords that you would have set out to kill when you first left Roundtable Hold. According to the game's director, these final bosses will be gradually unlocked as you progress, and I assume each Night Lord will be harder and harder in difficulty as well. One Night Lord that we've had a glimpse of already is called Gladius, and they're a hound that is capable of splitting into 3 wolves, which suddenly will require your team to use their abilities and contain the situation and just fight 3 enemies at once. I love that many of these bosses appear to be designed for the co-op experience. The Centipede Demon is another example, as their body parts can fall off and fight independently of the main boss, which will keep your teammates busy. The whole thing sounds like it will be a far cry from the co-op experience of the base game of Elden Ring. Often results in your whole team going to town on one enemy who can only really focus on one of you at once. So I'm glad they're taking multiplayer into account at a whole nother level this time. As for the game's replayability, some players have noted concerns with the variety of locations and the variety of bosses in their 4-hour play session, though From Software was quick to reassure them that the full game will have a lot more variation to it. Really, I feel like so much of this game's success or failure will come down to that simple fact. You know, how much replayability can From Software really offer in this one area of Limveld? And this brings me to the inclusion of characters and enemies from Dark Souls in Elden Ring, which I feel like is probably the most controversial topic of this announcement.
kind of off topic on my side, but I swear to God, in our reaction to the reveal of the game, we got like people in the comment section being upset at us that we didn't literally come over the idea of, oh my God, there is a nameless king now in this game. Why? I'm just curious. Like, is that like, what is like? I mean, like, this is a cool boss, but like, why people love it that much? Like,
it's not about the boss.
it's about what?
People like watching reactions because they want to see their own emotions in the mirror. So they expect the reaction person to mimic what they feel inside and to heighten their own emotions. And because we completely ignored the fact that there is nameless king, I said not nameless king, not nameless king, okay?
Well,
Chat. So people just wanted you to feel what they felt, and
yeah,
you
but
did.
like, what is about Nameless King that is so insane? Like, it was a cool boss, but like on my first playthrough, I remember I think I killed the guy on the second try. Like on my first playthrough of Dark Souls 3, I was like, yeah, cool boss, but let's move on. I don't know. In my opinion, the final boss of Dark Souls 3 was just kind of cooler. Honestly, I preferred it. They want you to react to the fact that you're recycling assets. I mean, I don't think like there is like anything bad with them reusing assets, especially if they are going to actually like just kind of do the multiverse kind of bullshittery. It might be kind of fun actually.
I think reusing assets is completely fine when it comes to the things that are under the visual side. Like, you can reuse the movesets, that's fine. But when you put the very same character in a completely different universe, this is what I'm not a fan of. It ruins, oh my God, I'm gonna say this cringe sentence, but it's not immersive for me.
Wow. Wow. Let's hear what he has to say, because this chapter is actually called Why is the Nameless King in Elden Ring?
I feel like is probably the most controversial topic of this announcement. So, this character seems to be the Firekeeper from Dark Souls 3. This spider is the Duke's dear Freya from Dark Souls 2. This is the Centipede Demon from Dark Souls 1.
Yep.
And this is straight up the Nameless King from Dark Souls 3. A lot of people have been laughing, rightfully so.
Oh, wait, this is actually so good. That's Armored Core 6. Okay, this is amazing.
People have been laughing.
I mean, yeah, multiverse, huh?
Sir the lore, just do it.
Rightfully so. The idea of people like me who explain the lore having to explain why characters like the Nameless King have made their way into Elden Ring. And I'm not gonna lie, I find this situation kind of funny as well. I agree that it's a bit ridiculous that they're in this world, especially at first glance. And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that like these characters or enemies have been added to the game for some deep lore reason. We all know why they're primarily here. They're here because this is a way for From Software to reuse their extremely high quality repository of assets and enemies and animations from their past games. Tons of enemies and animations in Elden Ring are already taken from their past games. It's a technique that frees up From Software to focus on designing new games and new assets that matter even more than these ones. And I personally don't have a huge problem with that. I think a lot of people would have a problem with this spin-off game existing instead of a new IP, but I guess cutting corners like this does allow them to focus their resources on new IPs. So I personally don't really have a huge problem with it, although I don't know the extent to which they're taking bosses from Dark Souls, so there's definitely still the risk that they could overdo this, in some people's eyes especially. For a while there, I was really desperately trying to understand how the universes of Dark Souls and Elden Ring could be conjoined in this way. At the end of Dark Souls, the painter does paint a new world, which could conceivably have been the world of Elden Ring. And what's also funny is that ages ago, George Martin stated that Elden Ring is a sequel to Dark Souls. which many took to be a mistake on his part, but in retrospect, that quote almost takes on new meaning now. The official Dark Souls Twitter account has acknowledged this overlap between universes, and it notes that ancestral foes are appearing in this world and that they are remnants of a fire that once burned bright.
I mean, it's called SEO.
Yeah.
And cross-promotion of the products.
And in an interview with Famitsu, the lore supposedly suggests that these characters were drawn here from other worlds thanks to the influence of the Night Lord. While it's a bit cheesy to have this overlap between universes, these universes overlapping kind of makes sense in the context of Nightreign, because this is a world that is in flux. Most importantly though, Nightreign in general doesn't seem to be connected to the canon of Elden Ring. Rather, the game's director has called the story completely separate and parallel to the world of Elden Rings. But that doesn't mean we can't still enjoy the story of Nightreign, and it also doesn't mean that Nightreign won't teach us anything about the lore of Elden Ring. Even if it's a separate story, these events are still occurring in parallel to Elden Ring's canon, and thus they can still potentially offer context about Elden Ring's world. Cut content is a good example, like that's not canon, and yet it gives us context about the world and what the developers are thinking in regards to a lot of these characters and a lot of this lore. These shadowy titans, for example, could give us clues about the dead titans in the lands between. The Night Lord could be related to the Nox, and they could be the Lord of Night that the Nox have been anticipating for eternity. The Round Table Hold is likely in opposition to the Night Lord for good reason as well, and yeah, that's all valid lore, even if it's parallel to Elden Ring, I think. What I'm most looking forward to though are the character stories, because I think those stories will be good on their own. So, all in all, I'm excited to see what the game's new director, Junya Ishizaki, cooks up here. This director has taken a risk doing something different with this project, and I think it says a lot about the company that they'd trust a new director with a project like this that no one saw coming.
If there is no Miyazaki involved, then there will be no feet.
You had
No.
to. You was waiting the entire video for this joke to come, yes?
No feet, no poison swamps, no gravity. Oh, that's actually confirmed.
That's actually true because there is actually no fall damage.
No gravity. So, I don't know. Do they really think it's gonna sell well?
Without feet, I don't think so. Let's continue.
So, I'm excited to play it, and I'm excited to die in Limveld and have you guys pick up all the loot that I had on my lifeless corpse. I can't wait. As for my personal thoughts on the game, I'll give those full thoughts when I get a chance to play it, but the reason I'm excited is because this solves the main problem I have with Elden Ring, and that's its replayability. In Elden Ring, once you roughly know where all the items are, replaying the game becomes a bit of a chore because it's just a matter of deciding on the best items for your build, and then you have to commit to this sometimes agonizing speedrun from one side of the map to the other, and there's so many places you ignore in the pursuit of that. It's just harder to get lost and immersed in the world when you're replaying the game. But with Nightreign, you can continuously get lost and immersed in this ever-changing world with ever-changing builds, and I think that's the experience of playing a Souls-like for the first time that we all love, and if this game succeeds, I think it will be because it nails that feeling of playing a Souls-like game for the first time and not really knowing where to go, you know?
Okay, this sentence is too long.
It's, Jesus, I disagree, by the way, like completely on the idea of immersing in this type of games. I would say, like, since this is more like the type of games that you really not immerse in, like you are time gated, you don't have time for it, you just optimize and you treat it competitively.
This is exactly what I wanted to say, that I actually agree with what Vati said, but if there wasn't a time constraint. Because when there is, then no, I cannot just walk around the map. And I understand the pain of so-called setup when you do a challenge run and you just have to go grab all the items. But you have all the time in the universe. Like some challenge runners take 5-6 hours of just the setup. And here you have 15 minutes to grab all the random loot.
Prepare for the night.
And then fight the boss. So where is the immersion? Where is the just walking around and sniffing the atmosphere?
Yeah, like honestly, I don't think you're actually gonna have much of that in this game. I think like this is just kind of misunderstanding of how the gameplay loop actually gonna look like by Vati, and I don't know, maybe we are wrong, but I don't think so, Nest. Like, I cannot imagine myself, for example, spending too much time at figuring out the environment, thinking about it, if that like makes some sort of lore sense or whatever. It's gonna be just speeding through, looking for the optimization of every single run in order to get like the strongest possible character and then beat to the pulp the fucking boss of the round. That's pretty much that's how it's gonna look like from my perspective, and for many other people, I think this is how it's gonna look like.
It's a spin-off roguelike, don't take it too seriously. Like, if you are a tryhard, then you are going to take it seriously. Like, my boy, he's a tryhard.
Even if so, like, the idea, like, overall roguelikes, by its nature, you actually kind of taking them seriously. You're trying to min-max every single run. It's like, even if you're like, for example, you actually have a lot of hours in the Binding of Isaac.
Yes, 150 or even more.
Okay, so like, what is your approach when you're playing Binding of Isaac?
To find, maybe not to find, but to see if, because this is very much RNG, to see how fun my build can be, so I can smash everything. Okay,
but ultimately, like, the fun comes mostly when something that you do is somewhat like it when it's working.
Yes, but in Binding of Isaac, you don't have time limit.
Okay.
Run around the rooms and grab items.
Yeah, but also you technically don't have like a world exposition there, like because you just have like a rooms and so on.
Yeah.
Like my point bank is just that like you still, even if you are playing something rather casually, but it is a roguelike, you're going to end up optimizing anyway to some extent. Like, because if your build not going to work at all, if it's gonna be complete garbage, then it's gonna be taken away from the fun.
Well, there is a lot of space between a build being a complete garbage and being fully optimized. I'm not an optimizer because I care about fashion and I care about the feel of a weapon, for example. But I also, I think, try not to do a garbage build.
I mean, like, if you will, then you won't be able to progress, and all that time that you invested in the run is essentially going to be gone, because you cannot just load up and try to kill the boss again. You have to start over entire run, and that's why you have to somewhat optimize.
Yeah, so in a game, like, that's why I think I don't like roguelikes.
Okay. All right, let's continue.
In Nightreign, that Elden Ring experience of discovery and challenge can be distilled down to this short, punchy play session that you can also share with friends, and I think that's absolutely more than enough reason for this game to exist. And yeah, I think it'll do really well if they nail that randomization aspect and diversity in the world. Also, I really hope that they add some sort of PvP mode to this game down the line, because the pieces are all there, and people joke about Elden Ring having a Battle Royale mode, but unironically, that would suit Elden Ring really well with its diversity of options for PvP.
I'm just going to mention that, like, this is something that I came up with. I realized, like, since this is another, like, game on From Software's, like, engine, we are going to have, like, lots of assets from this game just straight up moved to Elden Ring. I am not going to be surprised to see actual Battle Royale mod appearing sooner or later using the assets from the Nightreign. And yeah, it's honestly, as when it comes to PvP in Nightreign, if there is gonna be PvP, they probably gonna have to create complete separated like a game mode or something like that.
Balding being Doomer again. Sure, I will enjoy fighting people with 50% increased move speed, but you will have that move speed as well.
I mean, like, Balding has somewhat of a point. Soul's gameplay kind of goes to shit when things are too fast, and we can see it, for example, in Bloodborne, where people just dash around like a fucking monkeys, and they're just using abilities and do constant 50-50s.
You were about to burp. Oh my god, pig!
But yours.
And I hope this does well and they keep investing in this kind of game, because this is kind of the foundation for an everlasting, incredible Elden Ring experience from a PvE perspective, yes, but adding PvP would add even more replayability, and yeah, I really hope they go down that road. If you want to learn more, please check out all the articles that I've been referencing in this video. I've got them linked in the description, and I appreciate how much info they were able to get. Please subscribe for more Elden Ring. Sorry I sound so tired in this video. I sleep now.
Thanks, Batty, for the video. It was a great watch.